First flu epidemic in almost a decade is hitting Georgia hard, and now the hospital with the busiest emergency department in Atlanta has opened a mobile emergency room to deal with all the patients. Good evening, I'm Russ Spencer.
And I'm Marissa Mitchell. The flu has killed more than 24 people in our state, and more than 700 people have been admitted to the hospital, and many more have made emergency room visits because of the virus.
Well, patients have swamped the emergency room at Grady in downtown Atlanta, so it's opening a state-of-the-art mobile ER that can handle 14 patients at a time. The Fox Medical team's Beth Galvin toured that facility today. And Beth, this is another indication of just how bad the problem is right now.
Absolutely, Russ and Melissa. You know, there's nothing like the sign that the city's biggest emergency department, Grady, is calling in for backup. That's a sign of the times. They're seeing lots of flu and lots of other viruses right now. And Grady's chief of emergency medicine says they just needed more space stat. There's only one way to describe Grady's emergency department these days: rough.
So it's been remarkably busy for us. We've seen on some days a 25% increase in our volume. That takes us to over 500 patients a day. So
to handle that surge, Grady's chief of emergency medicine, Dr. Hani Atalla, says they've called in Carolina's Med 1. Based in Charlotte, it's an ER on wheels.
This is the first time we've done this. This is the only unit like it available in the entire country. Anything that needs to be done in our emergency department, this Carolina's Med 1 unit has the ability to do the same thing in here.
Patients will be triaged in Grady's emergency department and then escorted by a nurse to the unit.
So patients will come in through here. We have a little small waiting area here. If they're non-ambulatory, they'll come up the ramp. They'll come in through here.
Inside the unit, there are 12 treatment bays, several with heart monitors and other equipment. There's even a mobile operating room.
We will use that space if we need to do a minor procedure. You never know when you're going to get a patient who seems to be low acuity or less sick, and they turn out to be much sicker. So we wanted to make sure that we had the capability to do anything that we needed to do.
Dr. Atalla says they're definitely seeing more flu these days, but they're also seeing a lot of people who think they have the flu, but instead have something else, like a cold.
On top of that, with the extremes of temperature we've had in the Atlanta area, we're seeing some things like frostbite and some patients who come in with fairly severe hypothermia.
So if you're pretty certain it's the flu and you need help, you will probably end up here.
If you think it's a common cold, something that might respond to some fluids and some over-the-counter medication, we strongly recommend that you stay home.
But if you can't, Dr. Atalla says they're here for you, though it may be a wait. And Grady hopes to start moving patients into the mobile ER by about 8:30 or 9 tomorrow morning, and the unit will be open 24 hours a day as long as it's needed. So Russ and Marissa, they just needed more space. They're going to have the same amount of staff, but now they've got more room to treat patients, and you're not waiting these epic waits.
Yeah, and you would think by now that the numbers would come down, but it seems to...
They seem to be pretty much holding steady in Georgia, at least. Nationwide, I think it's waning a little bit, but we're still in the fight.
Yeah, and it's important to see the doctor because if it does get serious in your particular case, you can go downhill pretty quickly.
Yes, you can. So you really want to watch the signs for complication. Watch people who have any underlying illness that can get sicker from the flu. Those are the folks to keep an eye on.
All right, we'll keep an eye on it.
Beth, thanks very much.
Thank you.
As Beth just told us, this year the flu has hit children and the elderly especially hard. One Bartow County mother knows firsthand how dangerous the flu can be. Her daughter is at Scottish Rite tonight.
We took Emily in right at when she started getting a fever of 99.7 and she tested positive for the flu. That was on a Saturday. The next night she woke up and said she couldn't breathe. We rushed her by ambulance to the hospital, and she's been in the hospital ever since.
Coming up at 5:30, hear her daughter's story and the advice she has for every parent about protecting your children.
Tears